It's 4 o'clock. You know what that means. Last night, ensconced in a New York hideaway, a select committee of literati, academics, and the sports intelligentsia at large. Well, they met to learn, fight, and toil, and burn that midnight oil, to concoct what has become known around the world as the best segment in all sports television. It's my honor, it's my privilege to say it's time for Nick's Tears.
Thank you so very much, Kevin Wildes, and thank you to the committee members who stayed extra late last night, as all 32 teams are represented in this week's Tears. We will start with a particular group. This group is called Sad Off Season. So they're in the, it's not good. You don't have picks, or you don't have cap space, or you don't have a coach, or your quarterback might hold you hostage, whatever it is. It's not going to be a fun off season for these teams. Miss the playoffs, the next few months ain't going to be great. Now, two other groups, Purgatory and Exciting Off Season. Purgatory is very simple. You're going to be fine. And guess what? Next year, you're going to be the same as this year. You're going to win 7, 8, 9 games. You're going to be alive for the playoffs. Your games are going to be not that exciting, and we'll rinse and repeat until you get real quarterbacks in town. Exciting offseason. Some of those are the worst teams in the league. But they got dollars galore. They got top picks in the draft. They might have attractive coaching vacancies. They might have attractive quarterback openings, all of those things. But unfortunately, they all missed the playoffs. Now, to the tiers. Bottom of the tiers. Politely decline. We're going to RSVP with regrets to the playoffs this year. We appreciate the invite, and unfortunately, we just can't make time to get our teeth kicked in on national television in front of 30 million people. But otherwise, we'd love to be there. Next, these two teams didn't make the playoffs. Oh! They are in better position than two teams that did. Trendy 2023. I
like this.
Lions go into the offseason feeling great. Yeah. Coming off a win. The Jets, while they're going to the offseason on quite the losing streak, feel like we're a quarterback away. Mark it down, America. Place your futures bets now. These two teams will be, come July, you're going to turn on television and you're going to hear Peter Schrager say, I know it sounds crazy, the Detroit Lions are going to make the conference championship game. It's going to be, both of those teams are going to be trendy teams for next season and feel better about their years even though they missed the playoffs. All right, now we go to very different off seasons. So both of these teams are going to lose this weekend, and that will begin very different off seasons. For the Cowboys, losing this weekend will mean, are they firing the coach? What is Dak's future? Another disappointing season. The Giants are going to lose this weekend, and they're going to say, Brian Daboll should be coach of the year? We love Daniel Jones more than we ever have. We had a wonderful season. It's very odd. It gives you an idea of where expectations are and whether or not you meet them. But they're both NFC East teams. They're both wild card teams. They're both losing this weekend, but they have very different off seasons. High variance. All right, now, in fairness to the committee, when we met, there was not all this reporting that Lamar Jackson was unlikely to play this weekend. This ranking was assuming Lamar could play, in which case both of these teams could lose this weekend, and both of them could make the conference championship game. The variance for these teams is higher than anyone else in the postseason, and that's not shocking at all if they lose this weekend, and not shocking at all if they win a couple playoff games. Kevin Wildes.
Yes?
You don't get much right on a daily basis. But one thing you do is every time I ask you this, what are these not?
Mr. Consistency. Not the standings.
Not. That's really good. Yeah. Not the standings. That is correct, sir. So, and you know what? The committee is proud of the fact that it feels like, whether you guys know it or not, its football logic has burrowed deep into your brain, all of America. Because America doesn't respect the standings the way it once does. Or else the 13-win Minnesota Vikings would be considered contenders.
True.
Yet in all the football media world, you find one person who has them getting to, much less winning the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, however, you guys are still tied to the standings enough that while 13 wins doesn't impress you, 14 wins, oh man, that's the best team in football. It's the same. They're both round 2 and out teams that had nice seasons. Brew, once again, you look like you bit into a bad program.
Because this is horrible, Nick. Maybe the committee didn't hear.
Oh.
Jalen Hurts is back.
Is he though?
Yeah. He's back.
Maybe you did.
He came. It worked out perfectly.
Oh,
he came out. He got the rust off. They threw the football a lot. He didn't run like usual because he's still healing. But now he's got 2 weeks. I might. This is still too low, but I might feel a little better about your tiers with the Eagles if they were playing this weekend. But they got 2 weeks to get his shoulder right. They will be fine. And how in the world you put them on the same level as Minnesota? Minnesota's got one of the worst defenses in the league. Philly might have the best. So, no. I don't even know who's above them, but I haven't seen Jacksonville anywhere.
Well,
I haven't seen several other teams that they should be ahead of.
Okay.
They got as good a chance to get to the Super Bowl as any team in the league.
Right.
Yeah,
well,
I said it.
It's
I like that.
a little embarrassing for you that you don't know who's above them because there's only 6 teams left. You probably should have been able to figure that one out. As far as you asserting that it all went great for Philadelphia, listen, I wasn't in Nick Sirianni's pregame meeting, but I don't think when he was talking to the guys, he's like, all right, guys, here's the plan. We're going to have to play the full 60 minutes and survive an onside kick to beat the JV Giants. But maybe, listen, Sirianni's a different type of cat. Maybe that is what he was going for. Next, a couple of goats.
Oh, my gosh.
What?
You have the greatest football player, the greatest player in the history of the NFL, and the greatest player in the history of Georgia high school football. Right alongside each other. It's just true. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. You know what? And the greatest player, Herschel Walker, was pretty good. And the greatest player in the history of Clemson University, and soon to be the greatest Jacksonville Jaguar with respect to our friend Fred Taylor. So here's the deal about these two teams. Neither one has any business being here. Both of their defenses have underachieved what they were expected to do before the year. Both of the teams went through long losing streaks at different points of the season. Mm-hmm. However, despite all that, through the fortitude, ingenuity, and outright talent of their quarterbacks, they find themselves hosting playoff games. And don't blame them that they're hosting playoff games. That's just the format. They won divisions. That's the number. Greg, you show up every year. What do they say? Number one goal, win the division. They did it. Next, frightening but flawed. So, these two teams are undeniably frightening. Why do I say flawed? So for the Bills, the Josh Allen red zone turnovers even this week continued at in an odd spot and an alarming rate in a game that they found themselves trailing at some point in the second half to the New England Patriots despite a kick return touchdown. And for the Bengals, and by the way, also the Bills secondary is a big question mark at this point of the season as well. And for the Bengals, didn't love how they ended the season, didn't love how they conducted themselves in that final game, and don't love some of the injuries they are currently dealing with at the worst time of the year. However, they are still one of the 4 best teams in the league. Juggernaut. Pete Carroll said it. I said it. Anyone that watches football this year could say it. San Francisco 49ers have every single thing you'd want in a football team with the exception of an experienced quarterback. Luckily, the rookie quarterback is playing the best of any first-time starter since Kurt Warner or Patrick Mahomes. So they've got everything they need, and if you believe, like the committee believes, that Philadelphia is going home after the first playoff game, well, then they also have a de facto home field advantage. And that, of course, leaves one team. And while Brew might not yet know who it is, the rest of America does. They have done the process of elimination. Favorites, while rebuilding.
Why are you rebuilding?
So, rebuilding?
The 4th most snaps played by rookies this year was the Kansas City Chiefs. Chicago and Houston were teams ahead of them. Rebuilding. They are top 10 in off-season resources, cap space and picks and all of that. And yet they find themselves with the best record in football. And they find themselves there despite the fact that I know nobody talks about it, but the Chiefs' number 1 receiver hasn't played in 2 months and their number 1 running back hasn't played in 6 weeks. So how? That's because they have obviously the league MVP and obviously the best coach in football. And that obviously with the best record makes them the favorites. Greg Jennings, how are you, sir?
I'm tired of the committee, to be honest. I'm really getting disgusted with the committee and how they alter the top. Like, it's either you're the favorites, don't put a caveat of, while rebuilding. Like, is the committee really digging that deep to where they look at the roster and say, oh, they have more rookies now all of a sudden? Yeah, let's say that they're a better team. Look, the Bengals, the Bengals are the hottest team in the AFC. Can we put up this full screen, please, so we can please show the committee and Nick, who's the voice of the committee, what we're talking about since week 9.
Pretty good.
Look at these numbers. They're 8-0. Oh, and I'm going to jump straight down to the bottom. Cincinnati beat Kansas City 27-24 in week 13, who's atop the committee or atop the tiers somehow. Look at the team points per game. Up, Cincinnati again. Completion percentage. Look, Joe Burrow. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, because you had him flawed. Yeah. Where's the flaw?
Well,
because you didn't like the way they finished the season.
I'll tell you why. Can I tell you the truth, Greg Jennings? I had a feeling you might pick the Bengals, and they have one glaring flaw that I didn't want to mention until you had already spoken. So now I will tell you, their right tackle is done for the year, and their right guard, Alex Kappa, is in a walking boot. So that's 2/5 of their offensive line. What have we seen the one way to get to the Cincinnati Bengals? Through an offensive line that all of a sudden looks a hell of a lot like it looked last year when Joe Burrow was the most sacked quarterback since David Carr in NFL history.
And what did they do last year?
Right, they overcame it last year.
They overcame.
They overcame it last year.
And just so we can understand and put it into context, where did they have to go to overcome it?
They had to go to Kansas City.
And what did they do?
They beat Kansas City.
Okay.
Just so we hold on, just real quick before we go to Kevin Wildes. Just so I understand it, Greg Jennings, who is advocating for Cincinnati Bengals, you have them losing in round 2, correct?
We're talking about the tiers right now. They're the hottest team to finish the regular season.
He has them losing in round 2.
You just ran the full marathon. You were winning, and the next thing you know,
he's got the bill.
Look, he's trying. He caught you. He got you.
Me?
He got you to teeter over here and look.
He deflected.
Kevin Wildes.
All right, I'm going to say that the Giants are underrated. Here's why. Reason number 1.
Wow.
Experience overrated. I know it's like, well, it's Daniel Jones, it's Saquon Barkley. It's not my take, it's Brian Daboll's take. Take a listen. Thank you. So I don't want to hear anything about the Giants not having enough playoff experience. Reason number 2, ready and rested. Rested almost everybody last week and still gave the Eagles the business.
That's true.
They lost.
Yeah, well, granted, but they still gave them the business.
Okay.
In their last meeting with the Vikings, they had more yards, more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play. Vikings ended up winning the game with a long field goal, but the Giants were right in that game, and now they're totally rested. Feeling good. And then finally, a little bit of a renaissance. We're getting old Saquon Barkley back, and maybe, just maybe, against a Vikings pass defense that is not good, and let even Mac Jones have career numbers, maybe Kenny Golladay could come back. Maybe not. But it is a wonderful highlight.
Great.
And Kenny Golladay took care of the bill I read in the New York Post in their playoff party. Maybe Kenny Golladay got unlocked something. And just to let you know, thinking of a man of integrity, I put a little 1-unit bet on Kenny Golladay. Anytime touchdown score. So the Giants underrated. Early upset feel. Giants in Minnesota.
That would be an upset alert. That would not embarrass you like the Seahawks one that you're thinking of.
I don't know.
But listen, we can't show the tiers again right now because we don't have time. But I don't know if America noticed, the top 8 teams of the tiers are going to be the 8 teams remaining after the first week, and the Giants aren't going to be one.
I disagree.
So, okay, we'll see.
Okay, coming up next. Good tiers, though, overall.
I thought they were great.
Steph Curry's back, and so are we in 4 minutes. First things first.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.